don't think you can, just talking to that, I think you can set up your own, video streaming server for that purpose if you needed to.
You can, with money and time.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
So do you want to reach into your pocket or would you like me to?
Yeah, maybe you can notice something.
Turn you on now, so just be warned
Okay.
you are mic'd.
Thank you, Ben, for getting us back on time.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want a little bit more space. Display. Yes. Try that. Let me just look at my display.
There you go, you're up.
Beautiful.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Oh, I'll just let these last ones come in.
Might need a little bit of a zoom there.
Okay, well, I'm going to hand you over to Kim now. So Kim will be presenting for the next half hour. Kim's from NetSpot, and I'll let you do a wonderful introduction.
Hi, everyone. It seems like it's been a long day already. There's so much going on and so much to learn. I'm sure that you've all been to some interesting sessions. And what I'm going to talk about today is learning paths. Okay, as long as I talk quickly. So my name is Kim Edgar and I work for NetSpot and we're a Moodle partner. I'm a mad Christmas nut, so I'm very happy to tell you that it's only 52 days until Christmas. And why is it doing that?
Is it not plugged in correctly somewhere?
Yeah. Anyhow, we're not going to spend too much time in the PowerPoint presentation. I'd like to take you into Moodle and actually show you the new features in Moodle 2.7. Just doesn't like me.
You do need to keep talking and I'll play the cables.
I don't think it's the cables. I think it's what I think it's what the Mac's doing. So these slides are actually available on the workshop page on the Moodleposium website, and they've got a whole range of screenshots because I was thinking that if we were going to have some people online that we might not be able to use the app share, but we're not, so that's cool. We'll go straight into Moodle, but there's much more instructions actually in the slideshow than what I'll show you today. So to begin with, I'd just like to know a little bit about the people in the room. So put your hand up if you've used conditional release or conditional activities in Moodle. So few? No? Cool, that's fine. And a bit of a sense, who's on Moodle 2.7 already? Getting there, yeah? So 2.5, is that probably where most people are? Or 2.6? Yeah, no idea? I'll tell you, Adele is 2.5. So, yeah, I'm still not sure what's happening with my slides, but let's see if we can pause them. So conditional activities are settings which are applied to items within Moodle that allow you to release them once those conditions are met. And there's a whole range of conditions. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is an overview of what was, so what's currently in Moodle 2.5 and 2.6, and then the new thing that's in Moodle 2.7, which is really exciting if you've been using conditional activities, but will be very functional even if you're new to conditional activities. So conditional release and course completion were introduced in Moodle 2, so we've had these functions for a while. And they allow you to do a whole range of things. So as I said, you can release items based on different things, such as I'm not sure, this may be an I/O error. I may very well have put timings on these slides, but it's not letting me stop them. So that's possibly what's going on there. But yeah, that's not good. Is that coming up? No. Let's abandon the slideshow and have a look at the slides just in PowerPoint. Why haven't I got a maximise button? Okay, is that readable? Oh no, it's not coming up at all now. And close. Yep, let's do that. I need several sites loaded, that's all. No, I don't have any timings. That's going to be too hard. I can't actually see it.
You have to enable editing at the top.
Okay. So that should be good. So the conditional activities can be released by date, grade, activity completion, and a range of other things. But they're the main things that people release activities based on. You can apply conditional release to a whole range of both activities and resources, and also to topics, so entire topics of content. And you can use it for very basic use cases where perhaps you're going away for a couple of weeks and you want your students still to be seeing some new content each week. You can actually conditionally release it based on a date. So there's lots of different ways of using conditional activities. What I'd like to talk about today, as I said, is using Moodle 2.7, the new features. And the big thing with the new features with Moodle 2.7 is we now have an OR condition. So I'll show you what that means when we go into it. But before Moodle 2.7, we could only say this condition and this condition. We couldn't say this condition or this condition. So it limited us to the paths that we could create. The kind of teaching and learning approaches that people use for conditional activities or conditional release can include things like gamification, scenario or problem-based learning, and a whole range of self-paced kind of learning. And well, you'll see, this is just a bit of an introduction. Yes?
Is this just new 2.7, or can you do this stuff for 2.5?
You can do most of it for 2.5, so you can do all the AND conditions for 2.5. So, yeah. A range of different ways that this is applied. So I just told you a use case prior about the date release. But we also see people using them for linear paths where we have complete this task, then this task becomes available. Once you complete this task, then this task becomes available. Or we have the kinds of paths that are branched depending on your results. So both of the other paths that are up there, one is based on results in terms of completing a quiz and getting a particular score and being taken on a different path depending on your score. And the one at the bottom is an interest-based path where the user would actually select, I'm really interested in this topic, and they go down that branch, or I'm really interested in another topic. So they're the kinds of things that you can facilitate with conditional activities. These are the things that I've learned in my journey on learning about conditional activities. It's really important that you have a clear objective. What are you trying to achieve by creating a learning path? Now, this is aside from your broader learning outcome. What do you want your learners to learn? You've already decided all that, and you've decided that learning paths are a good thing for this particular context and cohort. Then I would recommend that you create all of the elements first. So you'll notice in both of those examples back on the previous slide that there was maybe a dozen objects. I would suggest that you create all of those objects before worrying about the path and the branching, just because it adds an extra level of complexity. You should name all of the items or all of the elements uniquely so that when you're looking in the big list, and I'll show you that shortly, you can easily find the thing that you want to move to next. I know that because I've done many paths where I've not named things uniquely and ended up with my paths all around the wrong way. If you're doing something that is a complex path or something you're not familiar with, it's worthwhile just doing a bit of a scribbled mud map so that you can see, okay, this is what I want to happen. And I often do that, particularly if I'm doing a result-based path, because it helps you just to decide, what the grade is or what the percentage is that you want them to be pathed in a certain direction. When you have got all that set up, then you would apply the settings, and then you should test it. And there's a few tips and tricks for testing as well, which we'll take a look at as we go through. If it's complex, if you can get someone else to test it for you, then they're likely to find different issues than what you'll find, because you know the intended use, you tend to follow how you've set it up, whereas other people will not necessarily. Just to show you that there's a whole lot of screenshots in this presentation, so that, as I said before, if you want to download these slides from the site, you've got all of those screenshots in there. But what I'd like to do is actually take you into Moodle, which this is going to be a challenge for my eyesight, and just take a look at what this currently looks like and how it works. Oh, I'm logged in as Ben. That's all right. I'll show you part of this. So Ben was the previous presenter, and he's still logged into the Moodleposium site. So we'll just pretend that we're Ben temporarily. So in my workshop page, I've actually set up some conditional activities. And you can see that when I scroll down, the only thing that is there that I can access find my mouse, is this little choice activity. So there's a little choice activity there, actually. Is that going to work? Oh, yes. And if I select that, this is going to ask me what version of Moodle I'm on. I'm going to choose Moodle 2.7. I'm going to update my choice, and I'm going to return to my course homepage. What you'll see now is that there's another section, another piece of activity. So by completing that choice, I've now got this what's your story.
So the section became available, not just an activity.
Correct, yep. So the whole topic has got restrict access on it. You can actually change that to be based on other activities. You might also notice on the right-hand side here that I've got a few different options, some tick boxes, and now that I've completed that choice, that tick box is now checked. That's because I've satisfied the conditions to complete that, which was just to make a choice. And I've got a couple of other options down the bottom here. So these options, one is a new user, one is intermediate, one is advanced. And I can again just select one of these. So I'm going to say I'm a new user. And that box is ticked. That's actually the wrong piece of content, but anyway, we get the idea. Oh, did I? I can't read that at all. I thought that I'd put them round the other way. Is new user at the bottom? Yeah. Thank you. So actually that's a good demonstration that different things happen depending on what you select. Yeah. Yeah.
So did you apply the restriction to the label or to all of the content and the label?
So we'll have a look at that. So let me log out as Ben and let's have a look at what that looks like. Let me just copy that URL. Thank you. Okay, so you can see that that immediately looks different for me. Now that I'm logged in and I'm actually a teacher in this course, you can see that there's a whole lot of content listed underneath those tick boxes. So you'll see that underneath each piece of content there's a little piece of text, and that is telling you what restrictions have been set up for that particular item. So that text underneath the item is a description to me as the teacher what restrictions have been set up for that particular item. If I just go back up to the top and turn editing on, we can take a look at what this looks like in this version. So this is 2.6, Penny?
No, 7.
It does. No, it doesn't have the new conditional activities. So I think it's 2.6. And if we basically take a look at any of these items, so I'm just going to go to, oh, it's got the, interesting.
Pretty sure it's 2.7. But none of that things turned on.
No, it's definitely not 2.7. Anyhow. So the two items that we're looking for at the bottom of the editing form for most activities and resources, you'll find restrict access and activity completion. So restrict access is how Moodle knows when to let you see this. So that's where we set most of our conditions. The activity completion is how Moodle knows that this activity is complete. And that part's only necessary if either this activity is part of the course completion or if this activity leads to another activity. So restrict access is actually the area that's changed the most in Moodle 2.7, which we'll take a look at in a second. But you can see that currently we've got a whole range of options, restricting by date, restricting by a grade condition, restricting by a user field, so you can actually have completely different activities for a set of users compared to another set of users. So for example, if you recorded the student's faculty, you could display different activities based on the faculty that they were sitting under. Or if you had special programs or things that students could enrol in, then you could use a user field to actually show them different kinds of content. So the two that are used most frequently are the date and the activity completion. So most of the ones that we had a look at in my course were activity completion. Once you tick this box, this thing becomes available. And you'll see that if I just click on that little down arrow there, that is the list of all of the activities that are within my current course. So I can choose any of those to base this particular activity on. So if I say, before we start, no, in this case it's any activity, because all of these activities, even text can be ticked. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a condition, it just has to be, can be marked as complete. Yeah. And then we've got on the right-hand side here, we can choose must be marked as complete. There's a range of things there depending on the type of activity that you've selected will depend on what's appropriate. So if the activity was an assignment, we could say must get a pass mark to be able to see this activity, so the one we're currently working on. You can also see here that we've got the ability to either show the activity as greyed out, or we can hide the activity completely so that students can't see it. And depending on your context will depend on which one is going to be most appropriate. If you want to show students what's coming, they will actually see a little message that says you must complete this other activity before this one becomes available. Or this won't become available until after the 4th of November. Like, it does give them a bit of an information. They still can't click on it, but they can tell that that's coming. If you're wanting to try and get that bit like a scenario or interest-based path where you only want them to see what they're currently working on, or that gamification model where you want them to complete something successfully before they see the next thing, then you'd hide it completely. And I often just hide things completely because I quite like that. When you go into the course, it's all clean. There's only one or two things that you can select, and you go forward that way. In the activity completion, so this is how Moodle knows that this activity is complete. You'll notice that it's actually not letting me change my completion conditions because someone's already completed this activity. So I can unlock it. Oh, that's all right. It's good to see. So you can unlock this activity, but it's just warning you that you are actually changing the rules partway through. So someone has already attempted this activity, and if you change the rules, perhaps that criteria won't be met any longer. But let's just unlock that for the sake of it. Scroll down to the bottom. That is one of my Moodle wishlist things, that it just remembered where you were when it refreshed. And you can see that for this particular activity, there's a few items. So I can't remember what I went into, but it was the choice, was it? Yeah, so we can, students can manually mark the activity as complete, or they can show the activity as complete when conditions are met. And depending on the actual activity itself will depend on what choices you get here. So, for example, with a forum, we'd actually get the opportunity of saying they must they must have viewed it, they must have replied, or they must have created a discussion post, and you can actually say the number of discussion posts and the number of posts they have to create. So depending on the activity that you're working on will depend on what choices you get at that point. So that's pretty much how Moodle conditional activities currently work, and they are quite nice, but the restriction is we can't say this or this. We have to say this and this, or we have to create two separate paths, which often means that we're creating duplicates of the same items, which we don't want to do because we want to keep everyone together. And also, we can't say that, you know, we've got these two branches and then we want to get people back together again. So it's limited in terms of the paths that you can create. It still does allow quite creative paths, and it does. I have seen some fantastic courses about all sorts of things, plagiarism and occupational health and safety, all sorts of kind of self-paced stuff that's really creative. What we're going to do now is take a look at Moodle 2.7, and I'm going to... Oh, rats.
I like how you got one of your activities doesn't open till after 4 p.m, so I can't finish it.
You can, you'll just have to go back in there later.
I wonder if I change the time on my computer if that would trigger it.
We have an assessment guide that students must sign before they can assessments. So we actually set that on conditional release. They actually have to make a choice to say that they're ready to send information to the assessment guide. And they can see the assessment there, but they can't get access to it to go back in, so they say that they're ready. No, we use a choice activity. Yep, and we sign that underneath conditional release. So this is a Moodle 2.7 course. It's set up in a kind of a scenario based. We've got this young person starting and we have to help them with their OH&S. And the course is basically just based on a self-paced example where we would want staff to come in and start to work with this in a self-paced way. Because we're running a bit short on time, my apologies, I'll just go in and show you what this now looks like. So we've got a topic here, managing hazards, and the way that the conditional release is going to work is we want people to complete this quiz. If they get less than 50%, they have to complete all the resources. If they get greater than 50%, they can either complete all the resources or they just get their certificate and off they go. So what we want to do is there's a statement here saying congratulations, which will show for people who have got greater than 50%. In this statement it says if you tick this box, you'll also see all the other resources and tasks. So we want to facilitate that. We want to say, well, if you get less than 50% or you tick that box, then everything will show. So I'd need to do this on each of my topics, but for the sake of this exercise, we'll just do it on this one topic. You can see that for topics, we only get restrict access. We don't get the completion criteria. And you'll see that the interface is quite different from the previous versions of Moodle. And if I hadn't already set a condition, the only thing here would be this button, add restriction. So they've really condensed the functionality. And for those of you that haven't used conditional activities, if you're going to be using Moodle 2.7, this is actually much, much simpler. So I'm just going to click on add condition. So you get the choice of the different types of conditions that you can create. This restriction set is a new thing as well. And that's where you can actually set up whole